topic we will be discussing today is tutorial purgatory. Now, this is for anyone who has been in that cycle of, not knowing how to, get beyond that stage of learning, especially since we're in this time of COVID. It's very easy to, pick up new resources and learn these, on a rapid, like day after day, watching tutorials, getting and sharpening your skills. But is that actually benefiting you? We want to get to the bottom of that in today's discussion, and also to pull out some useful tips, how you can stay focused, how you can focus on your learning objectives, and in that way promote yourself, to challenge yourself, to take on those ideas that you have floating around in your head and making something real. So to get us started, we have here with us Andre Wynter. Andre is the founder of Wanted Media, and we're going to spend some time talking to him today. So Andre, welcome.
Hi guys. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So Andre, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself? What type of person are you?
Well, thank you. At heart, I would say I'm an innovator, right? I always look forward to, come up with new ways of doing things, executing on the things that, I read on a daily basis, whether or not it's from LinkedIn or a book, or, school related. I always attempt, to apply those things. It's kind of difficult for me to learn as well if I don't, attempt to apply, knowledge, or sit down and have a discussion with someone who can encourage or show you another side of whatever perspective you bring across to them. Mm-hmm. And so daily, that's my routine: learning, sharing knowledge, and just creating new content.
Yeah, awesome. That's really good, finding a person. A lot of persons have a different view of innovation, but I liked how you said it. You constantly look for ways to apply new ideas, and that's really what the core of innovation is. Taking something from one area and apply it into whatever area that you're focusing on right now. What can you do with these principles from another field? That's really at the core of what innovation is. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So, I'm a country boy. I'm from St. Thomas, Jamaica. I currently reside in Kingston. I'm a student at the University of the West Indies, Mona, where I study economics. I'm a digital marketer as well. I work for 876 on the go as a digital marketing executive. I'm also the creator of Wanted, right? An app that I designed to help, businesses in Kingston to, improve their means of, reaching out to customers and, really shrinking that gap that would exist between, customers and their online experience, or their online presence, I should say. Yeah, so we had our 89th business join this week, yesterday. Truly exciting, and I can't wait until we finally hit that, 1,000 mark, slowly but surely.
Me and man, all the way up there. We're looking all the way up there for you, right?
Thank you.
You mentioned your background was in economics and in marketing. Tell me, how did you get from there to being in position to develop an app? Where did that come from? Where's the spark for that? And how did you, where did the spark for that come?
So from the get-go, my background was in, the digital space, right? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we're hearing you good.
Yeah, so my space was more in the digital background, where, editing photos, videos, creating websites, learning how to, manipulate and work with Facebook, Instagram, and, Twitter algorithms and so forth, right? But, in my space, I have a lot of persons who they have different ideas or different initiatives and activities that they take part in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I was there one day with one of my friends from Trinidad, right, and the other from St. Vincent, right, and they kept mentioning some difficulties they were having, finding nail techs and barbers and so forth, right? And being a Jamaican, you have to recommend all those things to them, right? And the discussion led to per se, how cool it would be to have all that, you know, accessible via an app. And from that night, I started reading up, the basics of programming an app, um, how to run an app, then the platforms to create apps on, right? Then it led me to, Android Studio, right? And learning how to utilize Android Studio, learning all the privacy policies and so forth that, exists on Android, and then having to, program and give the app features that were, both, efficient but also attractive and so forth. So it was 2 3 months of just reading, then going on the computer for a couple of hours until I'm exhausted from the programming, and then going back to reading, and that was the loop until we have want it. All right.
Mm. Wow, sound like a long and iterative process. Like you just going, trying, and coming back again. And that's really good. And have you had before trying out Want It? Have you had any experience with programming or anything like that?
No, right. My closest um knowledge would be about programming would be from high school, where it was Pascal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the basics of Pascal. It wasn't anything complicated, right?
Ancients.
So prior to that, yeah, so prior to that, that was all my experience was, Pascal and so forth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so so Google and YouTube, actually did a lot.
Hello. At this point, they should start offering degrees and certificates, but we're just waiting and seeing. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and yeah.
50 years.
Well, we'll see what they come up with. All right, cool. So, that kind of takes us into a piece of, the title of tonight's discussion. What is territorial purgatory? And before we start asking the questions around this and how they apply to you, we want to kind of explain what territorial purgatory is. And we feel like tutorial purgatory is a word that we coin for ourselves, but it's a phase that is not really new, right? So, for example, you have an idea in your head and you want to do something with the idea, but you are learning so much that you get engulfed in that passion of learning. So that, all right, I learn how to run an ad on Google. I learned how to make a web page. Now you see, you in your mind what you're thinking is, all right, I'm good. Or conversely, you may think that I don't have enough knowledge to try and apply this into something else. So I'm going to continue learning. And then that there's this repeating cycle of you learning. But what you're failing to do is applying what you're learning to actual practice or to produce actual tangible results, especially when you have goals in mind. So that's essentially what tutorial purgatory is. Now, we want to talk with you, Andrea, about tutorial purgatory. Has there ever been a period when you felt like you were doubtful or fearful about working on wanted media, or when you reconsidered working on wanted media because you felt any of these emotions or things running through your head?
Surely, it happened quite a lot, right? Um, having to learn, a complete new language from scratch, it takes a toll on not just your energy, but your mental strength and your mental capabilities. You find yourself having to dedicate so much time to learning this new thing and then applying it. It takes away
Mm-hmm.
from a lot of other things that you have going on, from school to personal life and so forth. And if it's not really your passion, or if you're not really passionate about the thing you choose to solve with your initiative, you will become tired. And
Mm-hmm.
you need people. Yeah, you need people around you. And yeah, so it happened to me quite a lot, where I was just exhausted, and I started questioning myself. Does this even make sense?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll finish the app and Google Maps comes up with this new update that allows everyone to see different businesses by just asking for them and so forth. And you start to question the a new thing every day, right? And you just have to really, as I say, have good people in your surrounding to actually set you on the right path. And as well, your passion at times will um go over that lingering voice in your head that will tell you otherwise, right? That this will fail, this won't go far, or this won't be what you want it to be. All
Mm-hmm.
right, you just have to get rid of that voice, as as Seth Godin says, you got to get rid of that lizard brain, right? You just have to get rid of um, that doubt and that negativity, and really look at the problem you're trying to solve and the lives it will impact.
Awesome. Awesome. True. That's very true. Because, no doubt I've gone through a similar experience myself. And probably you can tell us a little bit more about how you would have dealt with the thoughts that would have gone through your mind. Like, what helped you to deal with the thoughts that I am not ready to implement this feature yet because I don't think I've learned enough to implement it. What helped you to deal with thoughts like those?
Well, you know, I had to go into, I had to put down, the programming and stuff for a while, you know, whether or not it's a day or 2 days or a couple of hours, it sometimes fluctuates. You just have to get out of that zone and, really, you know, put yourself in something else, right? Give your mind a rest from that activity or initiative you're doing. For me, what I did was, I when I gave it a break, I went into sports. Attempted to work out. I I started reading books. I read Jab 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 Right Hook. And it really changed my perspective on you know my reason for making the app, and that I'm not really making the app for me.
Mm-hmm.
So my own doubt shouldn't be enough to stop me from doing it. And you know, watching persons like Seth Godin as well. Hearing them talk about how dumb um, some previous things that persons did. How dumb people thought they were. As they would say, as dumb as selling shoes online, right? As dumb as selling Pampers online, right? And then I started reading other person's story, right? Just like Pampers.com, right? And how it developed. And hearing other person's story, it actually showed me a different light into what I was doing and why I was doing it. And that was that charge that I needed, as I took that break from what I was doing. So
Mm-hmm.
when I went back into my initiative or my task, it was I wouldn't say it was a new frame of mind, but it was a recharged uh, work ethic, right? I was able to, go back into that 3, 4, 5, 6 hours straight kind of work, that kind of energy that I had, the first day, the second day, right? I was able to have that kind of energy again.
All right, nice, some nice points there. So basically, what you want to do, some pointers from that is to disconnect from what you're doing, try to connect with the reason why you're doing the thing in the first place, and to zoom in, focus on why you're doing it, who it will benefit, and things to reinforce yourself so that you can get back that energy from day one. That's some really good points there. Now, you mentioned the support, having support and having good people around you. Let's talk about that a little bit. So, how did a community help you? How did the people around you help you in terms of getting you to the finish line or getting you out of these difficult mindset situations?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of that.
Yeah, how did your community or the people around you that you probably told about what you were working on help you to break through?
Sure. Well, for one, the persons that were, closest to me, uh, they were able to, remind me of, the reason why I started, it's a good thing to do when you start to actually write down the reason why you're doing it. But,
Mm-hmm.
if you do forget to write it down or you don't get the chance to, it's good to, share that with people so that when they see you in that down moment or that, that phase where you're just questioning everything, they can be able to remind you of, your capabilities, your purpose, and, the reason behind your initiative that actually drove you into doing this for, in the first place, right? And, also, other persons such as, the different businesses that I saw who were being impacted by COVID, seeing their difficulties in that time and seeing, you know, how it was, putting a dampening on, the financial stability of many of the different businesses, you know, I-
Mm-hmm.
it actually, it gave me that extra pump to, get over that, whatever phase it is that's hindering, my progression to, just get in there and just get it done, you know, um, just initiative, over self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you can never really doubt the importance of having people around you that want to see you thrive, and especially when you're building a community, that's the most important thing. People around you that want to see you thrive, because it's important to do a thing. It's important to take ownership of what you're doing, and focus on it and know that you're the person that is getting it to the finish line. But it's also important to know that people are around you that are aware and supporting you, because as much as we are independent individuals, we also rely on support a lot to deal with not only the physical things or the programming aspect of it or the thinking aspect of it, but we also rely on people for the mental strength to endure, to go on to wake up another day and say, all right, I want to put in another 4 hours on this or 6 hours, or I want to beat the whole night on this. You know, it takes a lot. Never underestimate the power of what a community can do for you. What do you say to that?
True, true, indeed. I do agree with that. The importance of that community, you know, it was one of the reasons why when I created Want It, I actually came up with, Want It Media, right? Which is, that community of all the different businesses, right? And, I see a lot of good that came out of creating not just Want It, but Want It Media as well.
Mm-hmm.
It actually created a community of, different businesses who, wouldn't have, gotten it actually, so restaurants got connected to delivery companies, and, delivery companies got connected to new restaurants. And, it was just really, really, great to see, to see all those new networks and connections that were being made. Not just the business perspective aspect of it, but also, you know, the relationships that were built from it. Continue to see that happen.
It's cool, man. Cool. Impressive. You know, it's impressive to know that the businesses are actually using your thing to actually communicate, you know, and to build a network within themselves. That's really interesting. I never thought about that that much, but it's really interesting to know. So there it goes again, giving credit to the conversation about never underestimating the importance of a community. Businesses leveraging businesses through your app. That's very good. That's very good. So why don't we talk about doubt? You know, it can be one of the reasons why people, you know, keep themselves in that little box of not showing or telling others about their work. You know, it can be a crippling factor. Wouldn't you agree?
Surely, you know, the moment you doubt yourself, you've already lost. Uh, and you know, doubting yourself really is just, you know, it's a very selfish act. You know, let me explain. All right. If your initiative is truly based on improving, you know, someone's life, someone's experience, you know, you don't just owe it to yourself to have it completed. You owe it to, you know, the community at large, right? You know, persons going to university right now, like you owe it to your country to actually apply yourself in such a way that you're able to create something new and improve, you know, um, the way of life, you know, in wherever, whichever community, whichever city it is that you reside in. It's not just to learn and then, you know, go around a desk, but it's to actually change lives, you know, change lives while you are around that desk. All right. So that should be, you know, one of the reasons to actually get rid of doubt from, you know, anything that you're doing, you know. Uh, you know, doubt at times as well, it can be that, you know, you yourself, you know, the initiative you're going for is, you know, is actually, you know, it's going to take advantage of someone, right? And you know, maybe that's why you have doubt. But if your initiative is truly based on, you know, improving persons, you know, you owe it to everyone in your environment, your community, to, you know, execute on that idea, because that idea didn't come from thin air. It came from application. It came from your mind applying those concepts that you're learning currently in school to
Mm-hmm.
actually express itself. All right. So, you know, remove doubt from anything you do. You know, just go out there and apply and, you know, execute on your initiative.
All right. Awesome. 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 And it's okay to be doubtful, but not don't stay too long in that doubtful state, right? And it's okay to think that you will be criticized. But would you say that criticism is necessarily a bad thing?
You know, criticism is a good thing. You know, it's great. You know, I would hate to be able to put out something, you know, and everyone loves it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
someone's lying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone would be lying, right? And yeah, so you know, criticism is actually good. You know, as Jeff Bezos said, you know, in an interview once, you know, his most valuable customers are the ones who complain, you know, or get the time to write a review on, you know, those products, right? So yeah, so persons who give you critique, you know, whether it's good or bad, you know, you should really appreciate those persons, right? And you know, criticism is different from, you know, um negative, you know, negative talks and so forth, right? Because what persons need to understand is that persons will attack you if they themselves are in a bad light, or if they themselves haven't found the courage to execute on, you know, the things they want to execute, but they're seeing you doing it, right? So you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's not criticism, right? Criticism is when someone outright gives you, good or bad, a review on your product, all right, or service that you're giving out, right? And without criticism, how can you improve on that product? How can you improve on that service if no one says, hey, you need to speak louder when you're in your videos? Hey, you need to go somewhere that you don't have all those bike noises in the background, right? Right? So
Yeah.
you need that kind of criticism, right? You need that, because without that, you'll go from episode 1 to 28 and you haven't improved on anything, right? Which means you're having the same 5 audience, you're having the same 5 reviews, you're having the same 24, likes and so forth. It won't improve. All right. So with the criticism, only good can come from it. Only good can
Awesome.
come from it. All right. I
Awesome.
remember my first interview that I did, and to myself, I was like, hey, this went very good, right? And then I showed it to someone, and they were like, hey, you know that you can do this better. It's because in doing so, I realized that I caught on to um, that change and that technique, and it can only get better, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to realize that criticism is just information. You can do whatever you want with information. You can take it and make whatever you're doing better. So that's the real power. In fact, they are giving you power by criticizing you, just like Apple. Apple rolls out with a new product, and the way they deliver something may not be suitable to you or beneficial to you, but still you take the time to criticize it, take the time to complain about it. And what that does is let other persons know about the product, right? It gives them information to start thinking about you, your brand. So for however long your brand or what you're doing stays in their mind, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because they will take the time out to come and look at your thing and say, wow, I see what this person is talking about, let me go complain about it to somebody else. But at the same time, they will always be coming back and looking to you for to seeing if you have improved on that thing. And it really gets a lot more eyes on your product. So criticism is always good. Never think that it's a bad thing. Never think that it is something that will cripple your progress, or never fear from it. Never shy down from it. So real good points there, Andre. Thank you for all of those. So um, it would be good to talk about how long you think um, you took in that learning phase, right? You started out fresh learning a new programming language to then build an app. Now, what would you be your judgment on the time that you took to learn to build the app? Do you think that you did it quite fast, or did you think you took quite long?
Uh, I mean, for me to judge that, really, I have
Mhm.
to consider the 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 situation and the levels of the situation, right? So how I would ask myself is, did I take long for someone who just learned programming,
Mhm.
or did I take long for someone who is well skilled at programming? Definitely. Right. uh, so when I think about it, I was able to get it out, I would say on time, right? Just when COVID was beginning to ease up, and restrictions and so forth were being removed a bit, so persons were able to move about and started purchasing things that they wouldn't normally purchase in the quarantine.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I would definitely say, I I wouldn't even question myself, as in, did I take long? I would just say, it happened. It was able to, be published, at the perfect time, right?
Awesome.
And time than no, right?
Yes, man. Yes, man. The more, I guess it kind of really comes down to perspective and having a very good understanding of where you are in, your progress, because progress is different for everybody. As you rightly said, a person that knows how to code um, can do it in a less, relatively short period of time versus a person who doesn't know have any experience about it at any time. So you really want to, be very cognizant of your abilities, what you can do, and what you need to fit, where you need to fill in the gaps. So, and realize that progress is different for each person. Now, on the matter of progress and the matter of learning, we want to really zoom in a little bit more on that and ask you this. How did you structure your learning objectives? You know what you wanted to do. How did you decide what am I going to learn? And, what am I going to learn now? And after I'm finished with this, what am I going to learn next? How did you go about doing that?
You know, good question. So for me, I organize, my entire life in a certain way where it's not written down word for word what I'll do 2 p.m., 3 p.m., 4 p.m., but it is scheduled in such a way where I focus my days on, because in the field that I'm in currently, it's a field where you can't really force, one of the most important things, which is creativity, right? You can't
Right.
force it. It comes naturally, after reading a good book. It comes naturally after watching an inspirational video. It comes natural from seeing, a well done poster made by someone else, and you want to do something similar. All right. So, my days are somewhat designed in that way where there are days I feel, like a sponge. I just want to soak up information. All right. So, let's go in and say, all right, for LinkedIn articles, I'm gonna read, Seth's blog. I'm gonna go ahead and read over another chapter from, a book I read. Or, there are times when I feel as if there, there are times when I feel as if I'm, I already have that creativity in me and I just go around the computer and try to execute that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, there are times when, I just feel like I have the solution to that thing that I left um, because it was so difficult, I feel like I have the solution for that now and I go back into that,
Mm-hmm.
and, from, around, so about 16 hours of the day, I split that up in, in, in threes. And, there are days when it fluctuates where instead of, 5 hours going to this and 5 hours going to that and 6 hours going to that, there are days when it's strictly, probably 7, 8 hours for reading, or 8 hours for, applying that creativity that's just ringing,
Mm-hmm.
or, just, I just really feel as if, that problem solving mindset is kicked in, and I just go ahead and just fix all those things that I, left undone until, I actually felt like I had, the solutions to them.
All right.
So
Awesome.
yeah, so that's how I actually, organized it.
Cool, cool, cool. So basically, some good points there. You really want to keep focus on know and know what you want to learn. And it will be tempting to pivot and try and learn this new thing because you see it, because you have that book laying around, or you see that book and it looks interesting. You will may very well be inclined to learn that. But it's always good to stay your course, and it will always be a good learning opportunity after you finished and you reach the goal. we can definitely come back around to that. So thank you, Andre, for answering those questions for us. Thank you for spending the time. We have some before we finish though. We have some questions on our Slido. For those attendees who are here with us, Slido is basically our way for us to give you the opportunity to ask questions that you want answered before the session. So in that, when you register, you would have gotten a link to a page where you can enter questions that you're interested in, and these questions will be asked to during the interview. So the questions that we want to ask, the first question for you, Andre, is what would you say to someone who is stuck learning all the time?
Well, that's a good question. All right, so what persons should consider if they're stuck in just, that phase of just learning all the time? They should be aware that it's not a thin line between, learning and then executing, right? There are other things between those two things, right? There is, discussions, you can go ahead and speak to a friend or someone who's doing, similar readings on the thing that you just read, who will be able to, share their personal thoughts on, ideas that you would bring across to them, or, break down the things that you just read, right? And, it's in those discussions that, your mind will be sparked to either, go ahead and read more again, or actually, apply what you just read in whatever way, because, your mind is a powerful thing, right? In that discussion, you might come up with the next, Facebook for Jamaica, right? You never might know. And so, yeah, that's the first step, try to discuss, what you just read, what you just learned. And if you're still in that phase where, you've discussed it and you're still not seeing yourself able to execute, it just may be that you need to do more reading and more learning, right?
Yeah, I love how you break that down. There's never it's not a straight line, or there's never how you kind it again. You said,
yeah, it's not a thin line between learning and then executing. There are a lot of things in between those.
All right, nice. Because from what I can pick up from that, and me thinking about how you just explained that, there are a lot of times when I feel like I am learning something for the sake of executing what I'm about to learn, right? But as you rightly said, sometimes you read something and the way you read it and the way you think you understand it is not exactly the way that it's meant to be understood. So I'm probably bouncing that thing off somebody else to hear their perspective on how, and if it makes sense to them, is a good thing. It benefits you. And that can help you to have the right mindset and being the right mental state to actually applying the thing. Because when you apply it, even though you're going to make mistakes, you want to apply from a place of understanding and not from a place of being vague. So yeah, that's a really good perspective on that.
True, and you get to challenge yourself as well. You get to challenge your mind.
Definitely. And it kind of goes back to having that community, having people around you that you can bounce things off of, don't it?
So true.
All right. So on to the next question. I think this is our final question. If you were to build something now that is unfamiliar to you, how would you go about learning towards that goal? And I think this question can be swung around another way to say that if you were to start over right now, what would you tell yourself?
Go straight to YouTube first. ignore every article on the internet and just go straight to YouTube.
That's fair. YouTube is it's a very very good learning center. I personally can attest to that. It's where I built up a lot of my skills over the years. So I second that one, 1+ or +1. Um, so before we close again, we want to put it out there to any one of the attendees who would have any questions that they would like to ask. They can feel free to raise their hand, and um, you can come on and ask what you have and ask your question. But I think we have also one more question here from Slido. It says, how would you say someone should go about honing in one on one thing at a time when they find it hard to choose one thing? Interesting. This is an interesting question.
Can you see that question for me again?
So picture this. You have a situation where you are interested in 3 things. There are 3 opportunities to learn. What would you say to somebody that is in that dilemma, that can't choose between those three things, what they should learn?
What I would recommend is that they try all three.
At the same time?
Designate a day. Yeah, designate a day for one if possible, or a couple of hours for one, and then share it. So let's say you have 8 hours in the day to play around with, right?
Mm-hmm.
You split that up evenly, and you have to be fair with the 3 things. Don't give one 3 hours and the other 2 hours and the other 1 hour. Give them all 3 hours, or make sure that you attempt each of them when you're in the frame of mind to actually learn or execute, right? Don't go into one when you're exhausted and then go into the other when you're fresh, right? You just have to be, you have to be conscious of your emotional side, right? I know a lot of persons say don't pay attention to your emotions, ignore them. You can't go about your life on emotions. Well, your emotions will lead you to your passion, and your passion will lead you to happiness. So how can you ignore your emotions, right? So I would recommend that try all three. Share of whatever hours or whatever days in the week you have through each, and yeah, it's after getting a taste of all three, you will realize, which one you have, which one you are either skilled at, talented at, or which one you really have a passion for, right? Because you don't know the true temperature of the pot until you actually touch the water. So just try all of them.
Yeah. You know the water cold, but you don't know how cold it is until you put your foot in, don't?
Sure.
I love the expression there,
Indeed.
come on. I love it. Your passion, your emotions will lead you to your passion. So give everything, at least the chance to impress you, to leave an impression on you. I'll definitely try that myself. I don't think I've ever taken that perspective before. I always for me, I would have just decided on which thing will lead me to my ultimate goal faster and say, all right, run with that one. But you really make a good point in terms of giving everything at least the slightest chance to leave an impression on me. That's really something I can try as well. So
Yeah. And you might learn something from 2 of them that helps you to, go really, really far. And the third one that you actually have a passion for, that you choose, you never might know.
upon that, man, look upon that, just like that, right? So that's it for the questions. So I want to put it out there. A big thank you to all you attendees for taking the time out to come and talk with us. Andre, I want to thank you as well for spending the time with us to, help us to get to know you, helping us to pick your brain a bit so that, others can benefit from your experiences, and how they can better, approach their learning objectives and reach their goals efficiently. Hopefully we'll find somebody that takes your inspiration and builds another app, even if they are from a different background, just as yourself. So thank you again.
Sure,
Right.
sure,
We
sure, no
also
problem.
want to
Thank you guys for having me as well. It was an awesome experience.
cool. Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. And we also want to let everyone know where they can follow us on social media channels. You can follow TechPorts on all social media channels. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and LinkedIn at TechPorts. You can also follow Wanted Media on Instagram as at Wanted Media. Wanted underscore want with spaces as underscores. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Awesome. And is there anywhere else they can follow if interested?
Sure, they can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter as Andre Wynter. And on Twitter, you will find me as Andre Wynter underscore up. On every other platform, YouTube, uh, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you can find Wanted Media as Wanted Media.
All right. Awesome. So if you know somebody that has a business, definitely check out Wanted and definitely check out Kulcha Market as well. The website is mikulcha.com. That's mikulcha.com. There's a coming soon page. Leave your email right there and get access to onboarding as soon as that goes live. So keep that in mind. And we're also on Instagram as well, Instagram and Twitter at Kulcha Market. So be sure to stay tuned. So that's it for this evening. Thank you all for taking the time out again to join us. And we have another session. We want to let you know about a session that's coming up next month as well. That is on September. No, where September is gone. That's November 29th, 2020, same time, 6 p.m. And the title of it is Starting a Startup While Working or in School. It's very interesting. I think it's a challenge that a lot of persons, would think that they're going through right now. How to divide up their time, how to get yourself in the right mind spec, how to, have the right goals in place to build your startup. So I want to also extend that invitation to all of you. Stay tuned on the TechPort channels to find out more. So that's it. Thanks again and have a good evening.